Happy St. Patrick's Day, folks, and welcome back to the random video blog where every single Friday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, run down my rambling wrestling thoughts, share a few story, etc., etc. Here today, I was thinking of a special St. Patrick's Day themed episode, and there's really nothing I was thinking of listing off my top 5 favorite Irish wrestlers in WWE history. But really, if I listed my top 5, that would be the only 5, like Becky Lynch, Finn Balor, Finlay, Sheamus. There's not really that many. So I'm thinking of like Irish themed, and I'm kind of Irish. I am part Irish. I'm not completely like a phony here. I don't go out and drink on fucking St. Patrick's Day, swig a soda for the working man. I mean, if you drink, that's fine on St. Patty's Day. I don't. So, I can't really think of a good St. Patrick's Day idea. And so I was like, whatever. So I'll just do this instead. My top 7 least favorite WWE pay-per-views that I have been a fan for. And this is coming off of Fastlane from a week and a half ago, which was absolutely fucking terrible. So I'm thinking, you know what? I don't do many negative videos here on the channel. I do rant on some stuff on hashtag AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio. But for the most part, I don't really list, my top 5 least favorite this or that, or I hate this shit or whatever. Usually it's top 5 best, top 5 favorite, whatever. So today I thought I would go a bit outside my comfort zone. Not really my comfort zone, but kind of go a bit outside the box and going with my least favorite pay-per-views of all time. And I was originally thinking like WrestleManias, but you guys already kind of know the rundown. You guys know I hate WrestleManias 13 through 16. 16 sucked, 15 sucked, 14 sucked. 9 was awful. 11 was probably the worst of all time. There's a couple of the WrestleManias in recent years that were not that good. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but I have never really sat down, let alone listed or even talked about my least favorite pay-per-views of all time, like in general, not just WrestleMania. So let's get right to it. And this is kind of in an order. I tried to rank them from least favorite or least favorite to most least favorite, if that makes any fucking sense at all. They're really all just kind of terrible. So, and again, this is going back to April of 2008 and the 9 years I've been a wrestling fan for. I don't want to list WrestleMania 9 just because I had seen it on the network, and I've seen pretty much every pay-per-view with the exception of like 2 or 3 in-your-house shows. I have pretty much seen every WWE pay-per-view ever by this point and reviewing them for WrestleRant. So I have seen the shows. There's a lot of shows I just try to forget because they're really not that good, especially a lot of the early ones or the Attitude Era ones or even some in recent years. But you also have to keep in mind too, I did not start watching pay-per-views full time until like mid to late 2010. So I've been a fan since '08, and I've seen all the '08 and '09 shows, and a lot of them were really not that bad for the most part, or I would not call them my least favorite. So it doesn't matter anyway. But I'm talking about pay-per-views that I watched live, and I'm thinking once it was over, wow, that was fucking awful. And among those, coming in at number 7 is Capital Punishment 2011. Thank God this was a one-and-done type deal event. Why they did it in the first place, I have no idea. I know the event emanated from Washington, D.C., but that's no excuse to do a president-themed show. They had a Barack Obama impersonator who was, I know they use him for other stuff. He's pretty well-known, apparently, but that was terrible. They wasted a whole bunch of awful time on that shit. With Booker T and doing the Barack Obama spin-a-rooney. And people actually thought that was the real Obama, which I'm scared for the future of this country if that's the case. But that show featured Cena and R-Truth in a glorified Raw main event. I thought R-Truth's heel run in 2011 was awesome, but that match was really nothing special at all. And then the match ended with John Cena tossing water into the face, or a fan, a little Jimmy, tossing water into the face of R-Truth, which apparently blinded him and caused John Cena to hit him with the AA, and the match was over. So that fucking sucked. Del Rio and Big Show, Borefest, could not care less. I'm trying to think of other matches on that show. I know the reason this comes in at number 7 and not like 6, 5, 4, 3, or 2, or 1 is because it had 2 really good matches I enjoyed. Orton and Christian, and it was not by far not their best match. They had a pretty good match, not their best match, but still pretty good, with a great promo, my favorite Orton and Christian promo. And also one of my favorite matches of that year, Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk. So it's hard to say the entire event was awful. Still my least favorite. It was not a good show on the whole. But it did have those 2 matches, which I enjoyed. But by and large, that show just fucking sucked. Alex Riley and Miz was not bad either, but just in retrospect, it was just a complete waste of time because Riley's push went nowhere. And it was like his hometown. They got a great video package. Just went nowhere, which was a complete waste of time. So, yeah, Capital Punishment, terrible idea. Thank God they have not brought that back since. Coming in at number 6 is Survivor Series 2015, so a little under 2 years ago. I was really looking forward to the show because if you can recall, in the weeks that were leading up to the event, they had this whole WWE Championship tournament to crown a new WWE World Heavyweight Champion with Seth Rollins going out injured. And it was so predictable. I think a lot of us, myself included, were holding out hope for some sort of swerve or a surprise or a shocker. Nope, none of that whatsoever. This entire show is not only extremely predictable, which is not always a bad thing. I had watched the Ring of Honor 15th anniversary show a week ago. Got every single one of my predictions right, and it was still an absolutely outstanding show. So it's not the problem. The execution of the event, rather, was not good whatsoever. So the tournament matches, you had Roman Reigns against Del Rio. Whatever, it was a decent match. I could not care, though. They had Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose. Again, a good match. Far from their best match. KO losing clean despite being the IC champion. And Del Rio also losing clean despite being the US champion. His first loss since coming back to the company. Who could possibly care? Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose in the main event was a huge disappointment. The match went 9 to 10 minutes. For a World Championship main event, Roman Reigns prematurely wins his first World Championship. Sheamus cashes in. Who the fuck could possibly care? Even the people in the crowd cheered, sure, but just because they hated Roman Reigns so much, they didn't want to see him win the title. So Sheamus cashed in, so predictable, leading to one of the worst WWE title reigns in recent memory from Sheamus. That's another good list. My least favorite world champion since I started watching. Maybe I'll do that for another week. Maybe I'll start rolling with these least favorite lists. But yeah, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, massive disappointment. Sheamus cashing in, so fucking predictable. They had an absolutely awful elimination tag team match. One that was not even advertised in advance on the show itself. I think it was The New Day, Barrett, who was a huge fucking loser by that point. Sheamus was a loser, taking on Ryback, the Lucha Dragons, and the Usos. Who the hell could possibly care? This was added to the show at the very last second. I'm not even talking about advertised. They just threw it on the show. And it was not good. The Brothers of Destruction taking on the Wyatt family. I mean, it was a great showcase for Undertaker on the exact 25th anniversary of his debut in WWE. That was great. The entrance I thought was awesome. But it completely, and I do not use this word loosely. I do not use it all that often. They were buried. They were absolutely buried on that show. And it was ridiculous. No one could possibly fucking invest in these guys beyond that point. There's a lot of cars going on outside, so I'm getting distracted. I apologize. But yeah, the Wyatt family got completely buried by the Wyatt family, by themselves, by the Brothers of Destruction on that show. Just not entertaining at all. And then you had Ziggler and Tyler Breeze with a decent match. That Breeze won, but again, it went nowhere. A lot like Alex Riley and The Miz from Capital Punishment. It went absolutely nowhere. Tyler Breeze lost the rematch. He lost both rematches. And then his push fizzled out, and now he's been the jobber ever since. So that show is a complete waste of time. Coming in at number 5 is a WrestleMania that I've been a fan for. WrestleMania 29. Now, you will not find, spoiler alert, WrestleMania 27 on this list. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it is a very bad show with one of the most disappointing / worst WrestleMania main events in recent memory. But at the time, I did not mind that show. And I had been watching wrestling for about 3 years by that point, so it's not like I was a complete mark. I was happy Miz won. The opener was good. Rey Mysterio and Cody Rhodes was good. Again, it went nowhere. Doesn't matter. But still, I mean, that show at the time was really not that bad. I would watch that show back over WrestleMania 29. And when people ask me what was your least favorite of those 3 WrestleManias or what was the worst, yeah, 27 sucked just because it was built up to be so big and it was just disappointing. WrestleMania 29, the build was awful. As soon as it was announced that Jack Swagger and Del Rio were facing off for the World Heavyweight Championship, I knew this WrestleMania was going to fucking blow. In addition to Cena Rock 2, which did not need to happen because the match was awful. I don't care what anyone says. That match sucked. Del Rio Swagger, was a glorified mid-card match. Mere months before they finally vacated / retired, thank God, that World Heavyweight Championship, which had such a long lineage, and they completely bastardized that title. Just completely bastardized that title. They needed to get rid of it when they did. But that match was a glorified Raw mid-card match. What else happened in that show? Triple H, Brock Lesnar. I thought it was a good match. Crowd sat on their hands, though. Punk and Taker was the only match from that show I enjoyed, which was also predictable. And Taker lost his streak next year anyway, so I don't know why you just don't have Punk win. Maybe he wouldn't have left, who knows. But, yeah, just Team Hell No versus Dolph Ziggler and Big E. Like, it's a Raw match right there. The women's match got cut from the show. Who would have fucking cared anyway? It was the Funkadactyls and Tons of Funk whatever versus Rhodes Scholars and the Bella Twins. Who cares? I don't even remember. Ryback and Mark Henry. Oh my God, that was terrible. Holy shit. Again, a build that was pretty decent. And Rock and Cena, the build for that bout too, is pretty damn good. Even better than the year before, other than the fact it was announced the year and a half. I thought the promos leading into that match were a lot better for 29. But yeah, Ryback and Henry. The build was okay, and Ryback finally should have gotten that big win at WrestleMania, and he fucking lost. Because the guy's a loser. The guy was a loser. Oh, wow, that show is not good at all. I walked away from that show thinking, like, it was such a vast difference from 28 to 29. I walked out of my friend's house, wherever we watched 28 that year, 5 years ago. I walked out of their apartment saying to myself, wow, that was a great WrestleMania, great shocking ending. I can't wait to see where they go next with this. 29, I'm like, what did I just waste my time watching? That was literally a 4-hour Raw. A 4 to 5 hour Raw. And it's like, oh my, where do you go from here? Cena's the new champion. Ziggler didn't cash in. He cashed in the next night. The tag title match, who fucking cared? It's like, you know, the streak's still intact. Brock Lesnar lost to Triple H, who's still wrestling. Literally nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed after WrestleMania 29. From what happened going in to what happened coming out of it, almost next to nothing changed for the most part, other than The Miz winning the Intercontinental Championship for the second time, and John Cena winning his upteenth WWE title. Nothing changed. Not a fan of the WrestleMania at all. The theme songs were good. The show sucked, though. Coming in at number 4, Night of Champions 2011. Again, I don't want to put this in number 1 because there was one good match, great moment with Mark Henry winning the World Heavyweight Championship. That was cool. But other than that, this show was just super boring. Just a lot of bad booking decisions. I tell you, a lot of bad booking. Cena Del Rio was entertaining, but wow, you have Cena beat Del Rio in his first title, or not his first title defense. I know he beat Rey Mysterio on Raw to retain his title not after SummerSlam, but his first pay-per-view title defense. 5 weeks after Del Rio won that belt initially, Cena beats him for it, and not only beats him for it, but via submission. Makes the guy look like a complete pussy on pay-per-view by forcing him to tap out. And then they put the belt right back on Del Rio 2 weeks later. Like, again, who fucking cares at that point? The belt meant nothing. The belt meant nothing. And then Beth Phoenix losing in her hometown to Kelly again. Like, I got it at the first time at SummerSlam. When she lost again at Night of Champions, I'm thinking, you know what? Fuck this company. Because when Phoenix finally did win it again 2 weeks later at Hell in a Cell, people sat on their hands. They were in her hometown at Night of Champions. And she lost again. Because she was a loser. And then the main event itself. Do I even need to rant in the main event? Triple H and CM Punk. You know, people still say to this day, oh, you know, the outcome wasn't right, but the match was good. No, I didn't like the match at all. That match was fucking overbooked as shit. I thought I was watching a TNA pay-per-view for a second. You had Awesome Truth running in. You had John Laurinaitis out there. You had Kevin Nash out there. You had all this other shit. Like, oh my God, it was so overbooked. And Punk lost anyway. It's not like he was protected in defeat. He took a pedigree and lost the match. That was not a good main event. Triple H beating CM Punk is a decision people still question 6 years later because it made absolutely no sense then. It made absolutely no sense a year after. It makes absolutely no sense now. The rest of that show, Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, I thought was a good match. It was all right. Barely built up the last minute, though, so kind of suffered from that, and the crowd didn't really care. The U.S. title match, it was Ziggler, Swagger, Ryder, and Morrison. Whatever. Not Ryder, sorry. It was Morrison, Swagger. Oh, Alex Riley was in there. He was a loser at the time, too. What else happened? You had the tag title match, Air Boom and Awesome Truth, ending on a DQ. Oh, that show I would better off forgotten. Coming in at number 3, a show you guys know very, very well, probably still fresh in your mind, unfortunately, is Fastlane 2017. Definitely one of, if not the absolute worst show that WWE has put on in recent years. It had Joe and Zayn, who had a good match. The Cruiserweights stole the show, which in any other year would sound like that would make sense, but the Cruiserweights in recent months have not been what they should be. With the matches, just people just don't care. For whatever reason, I mean, there's a couple of reasons that I can think of, but the Cruiserweights are really having not the best matches of the show. So the fact they stole the show last Sunday at Fastlane really speaks volumes to the rest of the show. I mean, not to slight Neville and Gallagher, they had a really, really good match. But just the rest of the show was just so dull, and it was so predictable. Bayley beating... I mean, I've already ranted on the show in the past 2 weeks. I don't want to go on another long, lengthy rant on it, but this show sucked. Bayley beating Charlotte made absolutely no sense. I know they want to have Bayley going to WrestleMania as champion, but it's like... Oh, it was just dumb. To break the streak down was dumb. Braun Strowman losing clean to Roman Reigns ahead of WrestleMania was dumb. Having Goldberg win the belt in 20 seconds. Having him win the belt at all, I didn't think needed to happen. But the fact that it happened the way it did was dumb. The rest of the show, the tag title match... Who fucking cared? Enzo and Cass versus the Club. What else happened on Fastlane? Again, I'm trying to remember. It was only a week and a half ago. I don't really remember all that well. Was there any other... I know there were other matches. I just don't... Sasha Banks and Nia Jax was not really that good. I don't know. Just that show is just terrible. Not the best way at all to lead into WrestleMania. No, and how could I forget? Cesaro versus Jinder Mahal. And then the riveting classic between Big Show and Rusev, where Big Show knocked him out in the ropes after already chokeslamming him 3 times. And then you have the New Day come out and promote their fucking non-existent ice cream bars. Moving on. Number 2, speaks for itself. Moving on. Number 2, Battleground 2013. A pay-per-view I have said time and time again is one of my least favorite shows in many years, and probably my entire time as a wrestling fan. I know, which is not saying much. It's only been 9 years, but still, for what it's worth. So with Battleground 2013, it was the one show, since I started watching pay-per-views live in mid-2010, the one show I did not tune in live to watch. Because I didn't care. And it came down to one thing, really. That weekend, it was October of 2013, the inaugural Battleground event, which, I mean, I'm not going to say the show is always terrible, because Battleground gradually got better and better. 2014 was all right. 2015 I thought was pretty entertaining. 2016 Battleground I thought was fucking awesome. It was arguably the show of the year. So it's not that Battleground's always awful. The initial event, though, the inaugural show, is absolutely atrocious. So anyway, back to what I was saying. This show aired over Parents' Weekend for me at school, my first weekend at college, where my parents came up, and Parents' Weekend, you know what the deal is. So by the time it was over, I spent all my time with it, and I got none of my homework done. It was a late Sunday night after they left, and I'm thinking, okay, so I can either watch Battleground and attempt to do my homework while watching the show, which I've done many, many, many times before, more times than I would like to admit. I mean, I always get my shit done, but sometimes I don't want to miss the show because I got to watch it later, and I can't, whatever. It just wouldn't work out, so I would either do that or just fully focus on my homework, which was like nothing important. It wasn't like I had a test or anything. It was just basic homework. Or just fully focus on the homework and watch the show on Monday. And I said, you know what? I don't really care about Battleground for the first time since I started watching pay-per-views live. You know what? I'm just going to do my homework. I'm not going to watch Battleground. And it was the best decision I ever made. Because I watched it the next day. The Rhodes brothers versus The Shield was amazing. It's one of my favorite matches as a WWE fan, the greatest match on that show, one of the best matches of that year. But the rest of that show, man, that fall of 2013 just brings back bad memories. That show was the drizzling shits. The absolute drizzling shits. Del Rio and RVD in a hardcore match for the world title was whatever. Del Rio meant absolutely nothing as world champion. His reign was so inconsequential. He was kicking off pay-per-views as world champion. That says it all right there. The match was all right, though. AJ versus Brie or Nikki, whatever. I'm trying to think what else they had. That show, I just remember, just was so lifeless. They had CM Punk versus Ryback in just a not a good match with a dumb finish. They were trying to build up Ryback and they had him lose to CM Punk via a low blow. Stupid. There was one other big match on that show. I know it was the Rhodes Brothers, Punk and Ryback, the main event, which I'll get to in a second if I can't think of any of the other matches. There might have been one other match. They had Curtis Axel, I think, versus R-Truth. Again, whatever. Stupid. Who cares? The main event was the worst. It was Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. And that whole series of matches between those two, at Night of Champions, Hell in the Cell, and Battleground, just none of those matches were really all that good. Which is weird because they had some really good matches in the summer of 2013. And they would go on to have some pretty good matches in early 2014 before WrestleMania. So none of these matches in late 2013, because almost every pay-per-view that year, at least in the latter half of the year, ended in interference or just some stupid bullshit. And it was just so dumb. It was so dumb. The Authority got involved. So in this match, the match went however long. But before a winner could be crowned, Big Show comes out, knocks out the referee, knocks out Randy Orton, and knocks out Daniel Bryan. And Big Show standing tall on a WWE pay-per-view in 2013. Why? Why did that need to happen? It built to Big Show getting fired the next night on Raw, in storyline, obviously. And it just literally just built, just paved the way for a rematch at Hell in a Cell. So basically, you wasted your money in watching that show. Because the ending was just so stupid. It was dumb. It was some shit that you would watch on Raw. And even if you did it on Raw, it would be dumb. But on a pay-per-view? What a waste of money. I know they were offering people refunds after Night of Champions that year, the month prior, which was also just not a good show at all. Very, very boring. Because Daniel Bryan won the belt. And then they had him drop it the next night. So they were offering fans a refund because they thought the main event didn't matter. No. You offer refunds for shows like this that literally insult the intelligence of your audience and thinking that they would eat this shit up. Because no one ate this shit up. This was fucking terrible. This was the absolute peak of the horribleness, the awfulness that was the fall of 2013. Which leads me to my next selection, my least favorite pay-per-view of all time. I think you guys might know this. I've talked about it before in hashtag. Also, from the fall of 2013, Survivor Series 2013. So I lied, I guess, when I said the peak of the awfulness was Battleground 2013. It wasn't. Survivor Series was. I am so glad. I said before, one of the best decisions I ever made was not watching Battleground that year. That wasn't. The best decision I ever made that year was not going to Survivor Series. Because for months, I had found out that summer. Like, I started college in the fall, but I found out the summer prior, a couple months earlier before going to college in the Boston area, that Survivor Series was going to be in Boston. And I go to school, not in Boston, right outside of Boston. I'm almost a couple months away from graduating, which is crazy to think about. But at the time, I was still a freshman thinking, okay, that's cool. Maybe I can go to my first WWE pay-per-view. It's in Boston. It's right there. It's not too far away. That'd be cool. And then I found out the date, and the pay-per-view aired the same weekend I was going home for break. So I was leaving on Friday, and either I would have to stay at school for another 2 days or go back. And at that point, there was no purpose, so I didn't go. I'm so happy I didn't. So what we did instead, and I say week, is John and I, a good friend at JohnKnapp _ on the Twitter machine, we went to Survivor Series. We went to Buffalo Wild. We didn't go to Survivor Series, thank God. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings that Sunday to watch the show. And we had gone there a couple times. Unfortunately, the last show we ever went to Buffalo Wild Wings, I saw anyway, he saw a few of them with me. Elimination Chamber 2013 there, Elimination Chamber 2012 there, SummerSlam 2013. So I saw some decent shows there. But Survivor Series was just, unfortunately, the last show I ever saw there, the final WWE pay-per-view I ever saw at Buffalo Wild Wings before the launch of the network. Oh, man. Just, other than the opener, which was a 5-on-5 elimination tag team match, I think it was the Rhodes Brothers, the Usos, and Rey Mysterio versus The Shield and Real Americans, which was really, really good. Roman Reigns at the time getting cheered as the sole survivor, believe it or not, which is completely unheard of nowadays. But it was terrible. The rest of that show was just terrible. That match was really good, but the rest was awful. Cena and Del Rio, boring as shit. You knew Cena was winning. Definitely one of their worst matches they ever had. And they had some pretty good chemistry, but that match was not good. The women's match was a slap in the face to every fucking fan who ever purchased their product. It was like a 7-on-7, whatever, Total Divas versus non-Total Divas, non-Real Divas, whatever. Elimination tag team match. And they did like the ring around the row, yeah. Again, better off forgotten. Better off forgotten. That show was just terrible. Just absolutely awful. Wyatt Family versus Punk and Bryan was pretty decent, though. I will say that the Punk and Bryan match versus Wyatt Family was okay. The Wyatt Family lost for some weird reason, but it was okay. The main event, I still say to this day, is probably my least favorite main event of any WWE pay-per-view ever. And again, I've ranted on this before, so you guys probably know my thoughts on this. Randy Orton versus Big Show, which alone is terrible, for the WWE Championship. Now, why Big Show was a top babyface in late 2013, I will never know. I will never know. And I said it in my Battleground thoughts a couple seconds ago. Big Show closed the show, and he closed the show again in an absolutely tremendously terrible match with Randy Orton. Not good at all. Not good at all. John and I looked at each other thinking, why the fuck did we just watch this show? We had Mark Henry and Ryback on that show too, where Mark Henry came back. Whatever, the match sucked. But that main event was just, once it was over, again, John and I looked at each other, we're like, really? Like, really? And it wasn't even really anger. Like, I look back on it now with anger, but at the time I was like, not even disappointed. I'm like, wow, that was fucking terrible. That was awful. That was putrid. The match was not good at all. And it was a lot of botches. The kick to the head of Big Show did not look good. Cena came in afterwards to set up the main event for TLC, the unification match, which should have happened on this show. I don't know why it didn't, but wow, that was just, that was something else. That show was just the drizzling shits, that show was. And when I went to TLC about a year or 2 years later, as you can see on the shirt here, which I love this shirt. It's perfect for St. Patrick's Day, if you couldn't already tell, because I love the colors, the design, whatever. But yeah, so when we went to TLC, I saw a sign that said, Survivor Series 2013 sucked. And the reason someone brought that sign was because TLC, or rather Survivor Series, was in that same building in Boston, the TD Garden, a show I will forever be thankful I was not at. There's a lot of shows I am thankful that I was at. There's a lot of shows I wish I could have been at. This was not one of those shows. This was not one of those shows, if you couldn't already tell. So yeah, let's wrap it up here, guys. We're going on 30 minutes, one of my longer video blogs in some time. So, you know we go long when I got some ranting to do, but I am Wrestle Rants. That's what I do. That's my gimmick. But again, guys, quick recap of the list. Coming in at number 7, Capital Punishment 2011. Number 6, Survivor Series 2015. Number 5, WrestleMania 29. Number 4, Night of Champions 2011. Number 3, Fastlane 2017. Number 2, Battleground 2013. And number 1, Survivor Series 2013. So that's my list, guys. That, again, only accounting, if you're tuning in late here, if you're only skipping ahead to the end, only accounting for the pay-per-views I was a fan for / watched. And I've gone back and since watched every other pay-per-view in WWE history, again, with the exception of a couple in-your-house shows. But other than that, I've got pretty much every WWE show covered, pay-per-view-wise anyway. Not the Raws, obviously, but definitely the pay-per-views. There's a lot of bad ones, just the ones that I was a fan for, I was emotionally attached to going in. I watched live. There were some not-so-good shows in 08 and 09 as well, and some in 2010. Not as bad as this show. These shows were the worst of the worst. Not the best of the worst, the worst of the worst. So again, guys, we'd love to know your list on this lovely St. Patrick's Day. Down in the comments down below on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews, on Twitter as well at WrestleRant. You could tweet me, send me a message on Facebook, leave a comment on the videos. And that's about it, I think. I was just going to say something else. Happy St. Patrick's Day. WrestleMania. 2 weeks, baby. Let's go. I will be there in Orlando with Jason. I can't wait. So more WrestleMania content coming for you guys in the weeks ahead. And, yeah, I think that's about it, guys. I think that is about it. That does it for my list. And I thought I was gonna say one more thing. The 17th is awesome. Always a great day. No, my birthday is not on the 17th. I just like the number 17. St. Patrick's Day, good day. Swig of soda for the working man. Yeah, just love wrestling. Watch the WWE Network, guys. It's awesome. Don't watch these shows. These shows were terrible. Unless you want to give yourself a sickness of the mind. Unless you want to get yourself mentally sick, then do not watch these shows. They're just absolutely atrocious. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I don't want to ramble on any longer. Just stay tuned to the channel in the coming days. Content goes up every single fucking day. So if you're not already subscribed, why aren't you? Hit the button. Subscribe now. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys down the road.